Strange times. Good to see you guys in person, though. Last time I did this was just before spring break, back in March, so it's been 5 months or so. And I taught a lot into my computer, and so you guys are probably used to that also. Not quite the same to see you in person. I can see you in lab. I have all of you in lab, either Mondays or Tuesdays, so I get to know you better. You got a lot of emails from me, a little confusing in the beginning, but this is really, I'm going to explain it. I'll go over a little bit. And here, I'm going to explain what's going on. So, I know it's a lot of stuff in the beginning, but like I said, we're going to get it all figured out. So first of all, you guys are here on Mondays. So you just come to class on Mondays. You don't come to class on Wednesdays. I'll be giving the same lecture on Wednesday. I did 2 performances. I'll work out all the problems with you guys, and the next one will be great on Wednesday. And then in lab, you look at either cohort A or B. So meaning you'll either go to lab today and tomorrow, or you won't. You're going to do an online part, and then you go to lab next week. That's the plan. All right. Looking good. I'll just show you here. This is you've all, 94 of you out of 111 have signed up for Connect. You're in the class. Many of you have already done the first homework. You guys are all set. That means that some of you haven't. So on your course, when you look at course contents, you will see these things are homeworks, and then I'll get rid of these soon. But I'll put my PowerPoints. You guys can ignore these, or you can use them. Some people print them out, take notes, whatever you want, but I just got them there. I'll be doing this one today. And then you can see I put the Zoom link, so if you click on this, you get me talking with a transcript on the side. So it's spelled out for you in case you can't understand me or you have trouble hearing, something like that. And then, of course, I'll put them all on YouTube, too, so sometimes easier. Just click it, put on your TV or whatever, and hello, class. Well, yes, sounds like me, right? Exactly, very good. So, yeah, you guys are getting an idea of that. That's what those lectures will be. Syllabus and cohort, you can look at the syllabus, and you guys figured out, because not everyone is here, that's a good thing. Fit, you can see which lab you're in A and B. I just separated it. If you want to switch with someone, like I said, I don't care. It just has to be only 12 people in lab at a time. Labs are pretty full, except for that one in the evening. All right, what else do you need to know? Discussion board, most of you found. Excellent. And then lab, I brought up CurriCloud here. So you guys, when you get to lab, it's going to look like this now, because I just published these. And those of you in lab this week, or you'll do it next week if you're in lab next week, we'll do these. So it says in lab, and this says online. So online, you're going to see, oh, okay, here's the lab I do. And this quiz afterwards you take, it's easy, it's multiple choice, I think it's like 5 or 7 questions. It's locked, because you have to commit this one before you get to that. So the lab looks like this, you're like, oh, okay. That. Right. Kinds of connective tissue. Cool, there we go. Over here, you're like, okay. And so you start studying it, looking at here's lower and higher power. And these things, I have you guys work with it. You can, we'll see what else. I'll make you guys draw a little bit in lab, but this one outside of lab, you can just Google image search, look for an image of loose connective tissue, and you can just plop it in there. It's just drag and drop, or you can open it up like that. And then with this annotate, you can label things on there. And so that's what I want you to do here. You can either make a sketch. Sometimes it helps to draw. I'll make you guys do a little bit of that. Or I'm fine if you just find an image and put it in there, just so you have something else to look at. And this CurriCloud is on the cloud. So once you type something in here, even if your power goes out, everything is saved. So it's constantly saved to the cloud. And you guys can look and study this from your phone or anywhere. CurriCloud's there as a way for you guys to study for the lab. So these are fat cells, awesome. The little picture on there. And then you get to the end of it. Say press commit. When you press commit, you can't make any changes. So here, this just kind of reviews everything. You can look at the whole thing. You see the questions you're answering, the pictures you put up. You're like, okay, I think I got it all. You press commit. You can look at it, but you can't change anything. And that's going to allow you to go back to home. That'll allow you to take this quiz. And that's what's graded, and it's part of your grade. Cool. And these ones in lab, we'll do in lab. So wait till you get into lab. When you come to lab, you can't wear shorts and you can't wear flip-flops or anything like that. So you have to wear shoes and pants. I'd rather wear shorts today than I wear pants. Or else I have to send you out to get. That's just a lab. That's not a COVID thing. That's an always thing. So just make sure, remember, even though it's a nice day, you're wearing shorts. In lab, I can't wear it. And of course, no food or drink. Right? Come to lab. Come on in. You don't have to wait outside. You guys come in anytime. We'll get going. We'll do histology labs and first 2 weeks, and I'll give you a test on histology. All right, so let's take a look here. So you guys figured it out. And again, once you buy this stuff, it's good for the whole year. You know, there's a 6-month version if you're just taking this one class. But it's a better deal about a year, then you're all set, right? You used to always have to go to the bookstore for this. The first semester, you can get it just online. So here we are. Yes. We are, the first week, decided to do it just so you all got it online, and then we'll just, bam, we'll start with histology. And look at this good stuff. I mean, honestly, if you heard my lecture, there's introductory things, chemistry and the cell physiology and cell parts. It should be reviewed. Anyone that's taken biology, especially if you've been further in chemistry, and I'm talking about the nucleus has proton. You're going to say, okay, well, you can fast forward through it. Right? You're at home. I'm not watching you, right? So go ahead. But that's stuff I'm going to test you on. So make sure when you see it's a good review. And this first exam will be over things that are kind of just the background to get us going. And then we get skin and bones and muscles. We hit that. But a lot of this beginning, especially, depends on your background. With the cell physiology chapter, we'll go through cellular respirations of glycolysis and the Krebs cycle and things like that. So, I remember when I took it, I kind of got through it, but then I learned it a lot better teaching it, believe me. So you guys may think, oh, I've learned that before, but then, do you really know it? So it's a good review. So we'll get all that beginning stuff done so that we're good for a whole year talking about these things, as they apply to kidneys and digestive system and all the chemistry we're going to talk about. Yeah, cool. And then a lot of you guys are interested in bones and muscles. Bam, we do it, man. And then the nervous system is probably the hardest part of A&P, teaching and learning. The brain is quite complex, as you can imagine, but we'll get through that. And then you guys will be gone for Thanksgiving. I won't see you again this semester. And then I'll have recorded lectures, and we'll do these tests online, the last one, the week after. Yeah. And so you guys, today you're listening to histology. You won't come Wednesday, but I've got the chemistry lecture up there for you. Listen to that, take notes, make sure you feel good about it. Read the book chapters. So I'm here to help you explain things, etc. But the book, you need to read the chapter and listen to the lectures, do the Learn Smarts, just to get it in your head. This is great stuff. I love anatomy physiology. It's also interesting. So you guys should be motivated and want to learn this, not just, what do I have to do for the test kind of thing. I see here it says practical. This blue, you see the blue, and so that means that you guys will go to lab this week or next week, and then when you're not going to lab, you do the online one. Then you've had all the histology and my lecture today, and then you'll come and take the practical, which will be you'll come in and take a test on microscopes and pictures. You have to identify things. Practical exam, yeah. And then the first exam in here will be this week. So you come in and take an exam, and that's it. And it'll be over the first 5 chapters. Wait, 1. Oh, chapter 2 is over here. Yeah, the first 5 chapters. Yep, you guys can look ahead. You know what's going on. If I make any changes, I'll let you know ahead of time. Any overall questions on the cohort thing or how it's going to work? It's going to work. Never done it before, but seems good on paper. I think it's going to work. And then, just so you're all clear, there's going to be 4 exams. Normally have some comprehensive on the final, but I'm not going to this year. Just going to go over 1 chapter, so you guys should do well. The discussion, you guys put an introduction to yourself. I'll grade that, get 3 points for that. I haven't graded yet. And then I'll have a few things. And then quizzes and homework will be on Connect. You guys do well on that because you do. And then that's it. No mysterious papers you have to do, group projects, extra credit, anything like that. It's basically, do you know this stuff? Not a lot of discussion. Not a lot. I'll be asking you guys questions. It's going to be in person. In lab, we'll talk more. But basically, at A&P, I've got a lot of things to cover. And I do my best to make it interesting. All right, we'll take a break, too. No one wants, I'm not going to speak for an hour and 20 minutes. That's crazy talk. Yeah, I hope you guys are ready. Take one. Let's go fast, too, because it goes to Thanksgiving. Well, let's talk histology. I love histology. You students, in general, do not like histology. The lab, you're going to learn about 20 different tissues, I think it is, and I've got a lot of experience in it. For you guys, they look at it like, oh, it looks the same. It's kind of pink and purple. What's this? How do I tell the difference? And some things are obvious bone, like blood, right? But other things like elastic cartilage versus hyaline cartilage, these little subtleties. But that's why I'm there in lab to help you. If you're doing it online this first week, just do your best there. Look at the pictures. You've had this lecture that'll help you. So indeed, I've taught histology as a course, and a little lab book on it. It's microscopic anatomy. So you guys will learn gross anatomy. Gross anatomy means dissecting a cadaver, looking at big picture things you can see with your eyes. Histology is looking at it in more detail and microscopically. And so it's so cool to be able I know the muscles, the nerves, the blood vessels, going through my hand, but to know exactly what the skin looks like, to know it's stratified squamous, underneath it's going to be dense irregular connective tissue with blood and sweat glands and nerve endings and these touch corpuscles, and then to know what the bone looks like, it's being remodeled, and to know the blood, what different white blood cells look like. It's just the ability to know more, deeper, looking at this. And people at A&P, everyone should take it. I say that. A lot of your teachers will say their class is most important. I guess I drive my car, but I really don't know exactly how it works. Broad picture, yes, but to walk around this body that you use all the time, and it gets sick and does these things, it's just, why wouldn't anyone want to know as much as they can about it? It's just so cool. And of course, this A&P is a big, broad course to help you guys, for future courses, give you that big background. Good stuff. I just was up here for I got a little early, just showing you a histology lab. So every hospital has 1 or 2 histology labs. And so they're up there and they're removing a weird skin thing, and then they send the sample down to the histology lab. Those people will get it, and they'll usually freeze it, and then slice it, make a slide, and they within less than an hour, I don't know the timeline, but pretty quickly they can call up and say, yeah, you got it all, you got all the edges, or no, there's more. Or some of these slides take 24 hours and 48 hours. But histology labs, you need to know normal histology, and then you're able to see when there's diseases and issues. And these pathologists that look at the slides are doctors. Maybe they're doctors that don't like to deal with people, maybe, because you sit in a little room, I've been there, and they sit there and they just look at slide after slide, and they just talk, and then someone else transcribes it, like cell edges, border, normal, they just talk constantly, and then they leave, and they get their paycheck. That's interesting. That kind of doctor, pathologist, there's many of them that just look at slides all day long, and they tell if it's cancerous or not, if you have a kidney issue or not. So, that's good. All right, so, got some biology. Plants have certain tissues, but we're talking about animals now, specifically humans. And so there's 4 kinds of tissues. Right? Histology is the study of tissues, which are cells that work together, right? So cells and tissues are really close. Tissues is a bunch of cells doing the same kind of thing. Yeah, cool. And muscle, you guys know, right? The three kinds of muscle: skeletal, cardiac, smooth. Nervous tissue is neurons and their helper cells. Yeah, that's cool. The first two take some time. So epithelial tissue is your skin and these coatings and glands. And then connective tissue is like the garbage can where everything that's not one of the others is thrown into. So bone and fat and blood and tendons, cartilage, all these things are put into connective tissue. So we'll spend our time in this lecture, go through these different kinds of tissues. And in lab, we'll have you learn the major kind of tissues. I threw this up there also, just give you an idea, like how diverse. You have trillions of cells that make up your body. And people talk about 200 some different kinds of cells. Don't quote me on that number. And then just look at your elbow. Look at how diverse these tissues are. And these cells that make up these different kinds of tissues, they all have the same nucleus, they all have the same DNA. So how do they act so differently? How do they behave so differently? They all have the same DNA. Well, certain genes are turned on or turned off. So if you're a bone cell, you turn on the genes that make this calcium phosphate crystal, this little collagen background. So that's the deal. You have all these different kinds of tissues, but they all have the same instructions. Just some different instructions are turned on for different kinds of cells. All right, first I will step back and say that I need to cover some things. When we look at epithelial tissues especially, you'll see they often are lining your gut tube or something like that, or your bladder. Think about that. You want it to be really tight. You don't want pee leaking out between the cells and getting the rest of your body. And your skin, waterproof. You want that to be a real good barrier, right? So the cells are just sewn together really tightly, so there's no gaps. And we can define tight junctions are found usually in these epithelial cells that are coating or lining or a barrier, and they're almost like sewn together. And I can show you electron micrograph pictures where it really looks like they're sewn together, like beautiful, like fabric. And there's these little welds between the two cells, and it prevents things from sneaking in between them. So tight junctions, will really sew a couple cells together. These desmosomes we will talk about when we do skin. These are like spot welds. And I'll show you a picture here. Here's an actual electron micrograph. You see that picture there? It's like I'm not making this crap up. It's real, right? This is one of these spot welds that keeps these cells just stuck together tight. So a desmosome, especially we'll see it in skin cells, like I said. But really, really tough. You have to work hard to rip those cells apart. These things all are going to come up later. Gap junctions will come up when we do the heart. Gap junctions are between two cells, there's a channel. There's a channel between the two, so they're really tightly connected. So when your heart contracts, the cardiac muscle cells talk to each other. And ions will travel right through there. So it's like tunnels that let them really talk to each other. You guys now listening? And I quickly just searched for a picture of a desmosome just to show you. I want to show you that. The artist rendering seems cool in your book, but it's real. All right. Well, let's just start with some tissues. And in lab 1, the first half, we'll do epithelial tissues. These are tissues that are, your skin is the obvious one. And it's going to line the inside of your gut, inside of your urethra, the vagina, the bladder. These are lining a tissue, and it always has a basement membrane at the bottom, and then the cells are stuck on that basement membrane. Cells, basement membrane. This is called the apical surface. Oh, you can't read that. Sometimes it has little cilia on it, little hairs that beat like that. And then these cells are tightly stuck together, like we just talked about. So this is your typical epithelial tissue. It's got a basement membrane, which is just like the sheet. It's connective tissue, the sheet's not cellular. The cells are stuck on it. This is a single layer of cuboidal cells, for instance. There could be several layers, but they all got that basement membrane at the bottom, where they're stuck on. If you look from the top, that's the apical surface. And you all know these big dark circles are the nucleus of the cell. Yeah. So yeah, the cell's usually tightly packed. It's often not vascular, meaning when I say it's not vascular, there's no blood supply to it. And we'll see, we are going to classify cuboidal and squamous and columnar, the different shapes of the cells. Oh, we are right now. So, when we describe epithelial tissue, there's three shapes. Squamous means squashed. Squashed, thin, really super thin. And where would you need that? Where would you want really super thin cells, like really, really thin? Anyone know? I'm looking at you. I can see the eyebrows. Any ideas?
Membranes?
Membranes. Like what kind of membranes? What's going on there?
Mucous membrane, maybe?
Oh, I see. Because they're really thin. Like on skin, like layers come off very thin. Yes, yes. But even thinner than that. I'm going even like super thin. It's important for diffusion to occur. That's why it's so thin. Not much space for things to diffuse across. Why don't I just tell you? In the lungs and in the inner lining of blood, capillaries and blood vessels, it's wicked thin because in the lungs you want the gases, the oxygen, and the blood to be really close. If it was a big old fat cell, a big tall cell, it would be hard for things to diffuse across. So, squamous cell, flat. Cuboidal is like a dice, and then columnar means like a column. It's like a big, like a domino. So we're going to describe these epithelial cells, these three shapes, and then if it has cilia, we call it ciliated. We'll look at the cells like in your trachea that are moving the mucus up. Or keratinized in its skin, it has this dead keratin layer. Yeah, so there's some simple squamous. Super, super thin. I drew one up here. And simple means just one layer. One layer simple. If it was in many layers, we'd call it stratified squamous. Like if it was many layers. This is strata, like in geology, the different rock strata. Yeah, and you should know some examples. So that's been the test. Simple squamous is found A in the kidney tubules, B in the gut, C in the lungs, or D in the eyeball or something. You would say, oh, I remember it's in the lungs. The exams are all multiple choice true false. I'll give you some practice exams, and they'll only cover things I've talked about, not things in the book I haven't talked about. Talk more about that, we'll just give you a heads up. Simple cuboidal is a layer of simple cuboidal cells, meaning they're kind of cube shaped, they're not that flat. So here's a simple squamous. You think I'm kidding. Look at how thin this is. See this dark layer? This is it. This is how thin it is. This is one cell, here's another cell, here's another cell. Super thin. And they're lining a capillary, because capillaries, you want things to move through it really easily. So you want it to be really super thin. So that inner layer of your blood vessels is simple squamous. And we'll look in lab at the tissue of lungs to see that it's really flat. Here's some cuboidal cells, beautiful. Oh, look at this tissue, it's just gorgeous. Each nucleus is like perfectly round and gorgeous. You can see here's a line of cuboidal cells. And they line these tubes in your kidneys. So they're big because they're doing stuff. They're pumping things in and out of your pee and in your blood and stuff. Yeah. That's easy. And here's some columnar cells. Again, you guys not maybe completely familiar with histology yet, but these cells right here, this is how tall they are. See how tall? Yeah. And these little cigar-shaped dark things are the nuclei. So this is a layer of columnar cells in your gut. They're really big and tall because they're really active. They're making enzymes and pulling in nutrients from your gut. And then you'll see these round, clear ones. See these clear ones here? We'll talk about those. Those will be these goblet cells that make mucus. So goblet cells, I'll show you a picture of them. They look like a goblet or like a chalice. Now this one, you guys get this wrong sometimes on the practical. This one looks like maybe it's stratified. See the nuclei, like it has like 3 layers or something like that? It's just one layer. It's just that the nuclei are some are high, some are low. So we call this, it's going to be pseudo-stratified columnar. So pseudo means false. So it's a fake stratified, it's fooling them. And this is found in your nasal cavity and down your trachea, your windpipe. It also has cilia on it. See at the top, this kind of like layer there? You can see it on the very top. That's cilia. Those are little hairs that will be beating. And then the mucus captures all that dust that you breathe in, and the cilia keep it moving up. So pseudo-stratified columnar found in your respiratory system. So columnar, just know that it's your guts, your stomach and intestines is the easiest thing to remember. And then pseudostratified respiratory passages. I don't say questions, they're pretty much just telling you. We're going to say, normally you're wrong, and you're not. I mean, it's just, hopefully you guys are just getting a flavor for it, and you'll see these things in person. Oh, here's a goblet cell. Oh. And this is TEM means transmission electron microscope, or micrograph. And this is taken with an electron microscope, so you can see really close, you know. And this mucus, these goblet cells, kind of look like a goblet. Imagine you can hold it like a wine glass from the bottom. And then all those little circles in there are mucus. Mucus. So they'll squirt out in your intestines to keep your food moving along. All right, then stratified squamous we find in our skin, most famously. And it has many layers. So on your skin, if it was simple squamous, oh my God, every time you rubbed it wrong, you would like see your blood and everything. So you've got all these layers on here, and you see this to help for friction. And you've got all these layers. And the layers are constantly being renewed from the bottom. So, well, I love skin. Talking about that is awesome. But it's constantly renewed from the bottom. It gets sloughed off at the top. And the cells at the bottom here may look even cuboidal sometimes, but up here they look definitely squished. So it's stratified squamous. And this is not keratinized. So the top of it doesn't have that dead layer, like especially on your palms, your feet, it doesn't have that dead layer of keratin. So you see this in the vagina or inside of your mouth. Inside of your mouth is kind of wet in there. That's going to be stratified squamous, but it's not keratinized. Everything where you see your skin, it's keratinized. I'll show you. There we go. See, this it's just a list of characters you need to know. Transitional is only found in your bladder and some tubes around your bladder. So transitional, like transitional lenses, those glasses that turn dark in the sunshine, it means it changes. And so your bladder is full and empty, full and empty, full and empty. And when it's full, that epithelial layer is really thin. When you empty your bladder, it gets thick. So it changes shape as your bladder empties and fills. It gets thinner and thicker. So the cells can slide by each other. So it's pretty cool tissue. And to identify it, it's kind of like rounded on the top. This is one that you have problems with in the practical also. It's transitional epithelium. But bladder, and it changes shape. I'll show you some pictures. It's transitional. I know you guys. Maybe, I don't know if you're ready, but you can see it's many layers, and it's kind of rounded. This roundedness tells me it's transitional. Oh, so what's this? Oh, it says it up there, but imagine you can't read it. Yeah, it's stratified squamous, and it's not keratinized. I'll show you keratinized, man, you know it. At the top it's going to have all this dead keratin, this waterproof stuff. So this will be found in your esophagus, vagina. This is layers of squamous cells that are shed off, but they don't have this like waterproofing layer on the top. Okay. They have a little bit of keratin. See that? That little bit of lines up there? This is stratified squamous. It doesn't have as many layers, but it is. And it's keratinized. This is on your skin. Your thinnest skin's like on your eyelids. So just a little bit of little wisps of keratin. That's a waterproofing layer. talk more about it. And then here, really thick keratin. So all this up here is the dead keratin. So stratified squamous, keratinized, this is thick skin. This would be thin skin. I'm not going to talk any more about these, but realize they exist. There is a stratified cuboidal, stratified columnar, but they're really rare, so don't spend any more time thinking about it. All right, so epithelial cells, they divide really rapidly, really rapidly. That's why, chemotherapy drugs to fight cancer, they go for rapidly dividing cells, those are usually tumors, but they also affect your hair falls out because when rapidly dividing cells, gut issues. So they rapidly divide inside of your stomach. Actually, that lining in your stomach, the epithelial lining, it is gone. It doesn't last a week before you digest it. And your intestines, too. All of that gets digested, and you're always making new. So these cells are actively dividing. Unlike the cartilage in your ear, not dividing at all, brain cells, but epithelial cells are always dividing. They're really active. And skin is about a month, because if you get a tan, that melanin lasts, then it starts fading after a month. So you kind of tell how fast that goes. All right, talk about glands, then we'll take our break. We're getting about time for that. Epithelial tissue also makes your glands. So let's talk about glands. Next semester, we start with the endocrine system, hormones, pituitary, thyroid, adrenal glands, that kind of thing. Here we're talking about sweat glands and your pancreas, things like that. These glands, they secrete substances, and it comes from epithelial tissue. It comes from epithelial tissue. I'm serious. It develops from it. So let's say this is the epithelial tissue, and then you start making a sweat gland because it comes down like that. Yeah, during development, it comes from the epithelium, from the top. And in the gland world, there's two types. Exocrine is exudate, it's going out of ducts. Sweat glands, your pancreas shooting out juices into your intestines. Sebaceous gland, it makes your hair oily. And they're going out some kind of duct. There's saliva glands that squirt out spit into your mouth. So exocrine. Endocrine is going into the bloodstream. Endo is in. So endocrine glands are your thyroid, your pituitary, your adrenal. And they put their substances right into the bloodstream. They actually put it into the space around them, and it gets sucked into the bloodstream. All right, so that's the big thing. Is your pancreas an endocrine or exocrine gland? Does anyone hazard a guess, or is it a trick question? Exocrine because I said it made digestive juices, right? Right, but. Exactly, but the pancreas also does something else. What else does it secrete? What's that? No. What else does the pancreas secrete? You just yell it out. Insulin. Yeah, if you're diabetic, insulin is a hormone, so it's both. So you were right. I talked about it being the exocrine gland, but also there's little islands in it that secrete hormones. So that's the one that's both. So I'm telling you now, but we'll talk more about that for sure. In the gland world, you can imagine like that goblet cell by itself squirts out a little bit of mucus. What if you want to make more? What if you want to make a bunch of spit, right? Make liters of spit a day, right? Well, you got to make it bigger. You got to amp up production, right? The factory has to be bigger. And so you can make it a tubular gland. Oh yeah, instead of just being a single cell, make it a big tube, and then have all kinds of cells squirting their juices, and then it'll come out in bigger production. So you can make it tubular, and simple tubular, or we call it compound when it starts branching and the branches branch. So it's this will make a lot of product. Because here's the exit. Imagine everybody like a milk gland, making all that milk. All these guys are working to make milk, and a lot of it squirts out there. So it's a way to amp up production. And then if you see alveolar means it's a little dead end or cul-de-sac. The alveoli in your lungs are like those little great white clusters. The alveolar process of your jaw holds all your teeth, little sockets in your teeth. So alveoli means there's little bags at the end. But tubular just means they're just tubes. All right? So I think I asked a question on the test about glands here, the difference between a simple or branched or compound, branches. Just learn this vocabulary. A lot of AP will be vocabulary, the test questions will be, those things. All right, so glands make products. They make sweats, sebum, make your hair oily, milk, right? They're making a product. Now, there's 3 different ways they do it here. The normal one is this merocrine gland. The first one, that's where the cells make a product. Let's say it's your pancreas, they make it insulin, right, to do your blood sugar. And they just exit it from the top of the cell into the duct. So they make a product and just exocytosis, they just release it to the tube or the blood. That's the normal. Now, the next 2 are kind of weird. Apocrine means that the product takes a bit of the cell membrane with it. So it takes a little bit of that fatty membrane with it. I say fatty because the example is milk. Milk glands, because the milk has fat in it, I think about it that way. Takes a little bit of it, it's the surface of the cell with it. And ceruminous glands are your wax glands in your ear canal. So waxy or milky, I'm thinking of that. It's got some fat on it. And then the last one is only found in your sebaceous glands. And those glands are with each hair follicle. And they actually make the product, and then they explode. The whole cell bursts. And what you have is just the debris from the cell and the product that it made. So it just is going to grow up and then kill itself and explode. And then that's the sebum that goes on your hair shaft to make it oil. How's that? Merocrine is normal. You're making a product, squirting it out. Apocrine, you take a little bit of the membrane, so it's surrounded by this little bit of membrane as the product comes out. And then holocrine is just your sebaceous glands, and they blow up. All right. Woo! 8:41. We need a break for sure. So at this point, we take a 4-minute break. You can do whatever you want, just safely. All right. Any questions you guys? 8:45. Oh, all right, you guys. There was your break. That was good. All right. Does anyone think of any questions? What I'm going to do, I'm going to make a small hole. Is that? The microphone is obviously very slippery. You guys know. All right. So we're going to be left with talking about epithelial tissues. You guys know you can have squamous or cuboidal or columnar, and we talked about where some ones are found. Now we'll talk about connective tissues, which is the other big thing, and that's what the lab you do online looks at connective tissues. And these are all kinds of weird things, like I say, blood and fat and bone. A whole bunch of it's thrown in here, but they do connect things. They connect things. They do all kinds of important functions. Your fat is, storing energy, right? Your tendons and ligaments are allowing your muscles to connect to bones. So yeah, definitely. And they can be vascular or not, which means some of them, like loose connective tissue, has lots of blood vessels, but like cartilage is very avascular, or tendon is very avascular. So you don't heal very well, right? It takes a long time to heal cartilage and to heal ligaments as opposed to bone, which just has a lot of blood, so it heals more rapidly. Yeah. Cells divide. Yeah. And what connective tissue has is the following. All right. So it has cells, some kind of cells that make up the tissue. So in bone, you have bone cells. Cartilage, you have cartilage cells. We call them osteocytes, chondrocytes. In blood, it's going to be the red blood cells and white blood cells and platelets. So there's always cells. And then there's some kind of matrix, some kind of acellular stuff around it. So in blood, it's plasma. It's that liquid plasma. In bone, it's this crystal matrix, right? Like calcium and phosphorus. In cartilage, it's this rubbery kind of matrix, right? So it's at the end of your bones, it gives you a little bit of compression and stuff. So some kind of matrix that the cells make that surround them. And then fibers. Fibers of some kind in there. Fibers often give it strength, like collagen fibers give it a lot of strength. And you have elastic fibers that give things flexibility. And then reticular fibers are a little wispy, like collagen. You'll see in like really spongy organs, like your lymph nodes or your liver. All right, so this extracellular matrix is also called the ground substance. In this case, it's light pink. This is cartilage. And then these little circles here are going to be the cells. Cells will be in those circles, and they made that light pink around them. It's a rubbery, watery kind of matrix that makes up cartilage. So collagen. Collagen is so important in your body. It gives it so strong. If you look at it, 1.5 tons per square inch. So this is when you guys are you're cutting a steak or a chicken and that tendon is in it. It's really forward. The outside of the steak, that silver on there, you want to cut off because it's too tough. So that's the collagen. Think about it being really tough like that. In your IT band, down the side, you get runners and stuff, and they found here is made out of really tough, that white collagen. So it's just really, really strong substance, and it's used in your tendons and ligaments in places where you need strength. And you guys can really get into it. There's collagen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's all kinds of types. But as you can see, imagine it's a rope that has lots of different fibers that are braided together. It gives it so much strength. I mean, my biceps tendon I'm feeling right here. It's so strong that even when you, like, let's say you have an injury, like a hamstring injury, when you're doing hurdles or something like that, often the bone breaks before the tendon breaks, ligaments. So give you an idea how strong that collagen is. And so collagen's in our skin, gives it toughness, in our ligaments, all over the place. It's in our bone to give it flexibility. So collagen, important protein that you make. Now this is a disease that is a problem with you making collagen. And I've actually known 2 people that had kids that have this osteogenesis imperfecta. Well. And bone has to be really strong. So it has to have that calcium, phosphorus, that crystal to make it strong. But it also has to be flexible. So if you just had bone that was made out of the crystal part, it would break so easily. So it's about, we talk about bone, it has to have collagen, which allows it to bend somewhat, and the crystal part, which gives it strength. Now, if you don't make enough of the crystal part, your bones are too bendy. Rickets, disease where you maybe see old-time movies where the kids, like the legs are really bowed and the arms are bowed because they don't have enough calcium or vitamin D, and it's too flexible. In this disease, osteogenesis imperfecta, your bones are too brittle. And so they break so easily. So it's a genetic disease. It's about 19 different kinds of this genetic disease. Some are worse than others, but your bones are super brittle. And as a kid, you can't really play with the other kids because any kind of roughhousing, just a simple fall, you break your legs and have to put braces on them so they can grow when the kid grows. I just remember the movie Unbreakable. Samuel Jackson had that disease, and he wasn't allowed to play as a kid, and he turned out to be really evil. It's an okay movie. Bruce Willis had it. But so, osteogenesis imperfecta. I'll talk about diseases throughout this class, and I can ask you on the test about them. This one, you often can tell your sclera, the whites of your eyes, is made out of collagen, will have a bluish tint. And they'll do genetic tests, see how it's carried out. All right. One slide on reticular fibers. See how it's been stained for in this one, so it's all black, purple, wispy. These are little tiny wispy collagen. So it's not like a tendon or ligament. These are just little wisps of collagen. And they make this like jungle gym. So your lymph nodes and your spleen, things that are kind of spongy, they have a jungle gym for the cells to grow on. Yeah, and you'll see this form really quickly when you're doing some repair of the body. Cool. Elastic fibers are like a rubber band, superly elasticy. They're able to stretch and come back. So your skin has a lot of elastic fibers in it, the dermis of your skin. So if you pull your skin back, it snaps right back, doesn't it? Oh, if you do that to grandma, just like pulls that, it doesn't snap back. It's just kind of like paper thin. As you get older, you make less collagen elastic fiber, your skin gets thinner, and it doesn't snap back like it does in us young people. And then elastic fiber is wicked important in your lungs, because as you breathe, those elastic fibers stretch, and as you exhale, they just come back. And your blood vessels, my God, so important. As you're going to see, when your blood pumps through your arteries, they stretch, and they hold that energy, and then they release it. So your blood pressure doesn't go crazy. It's kind of like it's mitigating a little bit. Yeah, so elastic fibers, they stain purple in lab, purple, black, and they're branched and squiggly. They're little rubber bands, you can see in here. Here's an aorta stained for elastic fibers. Look at all those layers of elastic fibers. Damn. So that thing really stretches under the whole power of your heart. Every heartbeat it stretches. All right, so the fibers, collagen and elastic fibers, are the main 2 fibers we're going to talk about. Now the cells, fibroblasts, anything blast means it's going to make fibers. So there's lots of fibroblasts in connective tissue, and they make the fibers. They look like little star-shaped cells. Yeah, nucleus. You often see macrophages. We'll talk about the immune system. Really important for COVID and everything like that. We'll get to that. But macrophages are white blood cells that are going around eating the bad guys. So they're going to be like scattered throughout connective tissue, all over your body, sampling the environment, looking for something new. Yep, and then lastly, these mast cells. I want you to know that. In all of your tissues, you have these cells. They're what kind of white blood cell? They sit there, and they wait for injury. They wait for some kind of disease, some kind of break, some kind of cut, something. And they're packed with two chemicals I want you to know. They're packed with heparin and histamine. Now, you've heard of histamine because of antihistamines. You take that, you're stuffy. So what histamine does is it's going to cause your blood vessels to dilate and become leaky. So if you guys have a cold and you're all stuffy, antihistamines will help those blood vessels contract, be less leaky, and that the tissue in your nose will contract. If it's really leaky, you have edema, swelling, and you feel all stuffy. So histamine is going to be released to cause the blood vessels to dilate, and then heparin. Does anyone know what heparin is? I bet some of you recognize it. Like in blood labs, the tubes are heparin coated. No? Okay. Nobody's shaking their head. All right. Heparin is an anticoagulant, and so it keeps your blood from clotting. So the purpose of mast cells is they sit in your body, and if it's injured, they release these chemicals, and it causes more blood flow, and so blood flow is going to bring white blood cells, and so you notice maybe you got an infection, it's red, it's swollen, it's hot and painful. That's because histamine and heparin are being released, and the blood is going there, it's very leaky, it's carrying the cavalry, it's carrying the white blood cells to help fight the infection. All right, so these are cells that are found along with the cells of interest in cartilage. All right, this is it. Let's talk about them. The weird ones are cartilage, bone, and blood. We'll talk about those separately. And over here, the dense connective tissue is really dense. And so here's tendons and ligaments, the dermis of your skin, the leather under there. And then loose means it's kind of loose. So we put fat in there. Adipose tissue is fat. And areolar means airy and light. It's kind of a light connective tissue. So yeah, we'll talk about these. You guys will be able to pick these out on the slide if you want to do well in practice. So areola means, areolar means very airy and open like that. You can see it's beneath our skin. It's in our armpits, everywhere. And then adipose is your fat cells. And this is a huge cell. And it's all open here because there used to be fat in it. When you make slides, you slice them and you wash them with organic solvents, and the fat washes away, lipids do. So it leaves like an open area. It looks like chicken wire, all open like that. And the cell itself, its nucleus is squished way to the side, and it just holds a big truckload of fat. That's what it does. And of course, fat's found, you know where it's found, everywhere. So here's that loose connective tissue, the areolar connective tissue. And what you're seeing here is that the pink, all the pink fibers you see, the obvious ones, are collagen. You guys see the dark purple fibers? Those are elastic fibers. And all the circles, those are cells. Most of those are fibroblasts. So this is loose connective tissue. It's just got collagen and elastic fibers, and it's kind of open and airy, lots of space in there. That's why it's loose. And here's adipose, so cool. The picture up there in the gold is going to be electron micrograph. That means that's real. It shows that they're filled with fat. The other one's your typical slide you're going to see in lab, and that is, it looks like chicken wire, because the fat itself has already been washed away, so they look empty. But these things store fat for you. They release it when you need it. They store it when you need to store some fat. All right, so connective tissue, adipose is fat. You know where it's found, and you know the cells have a nucleus squished and they're filled with fat. All right, dense, regular. That means it's dense. And regular means it's going to be all parallel lines instead of being every which way. So regular means they're going to be in a regular arrangement. And we see this in tendons and ligaments. And they're wicked strong because they're pretty much just collagen fibers, some elastic. And the cells themselves are these little like little hot dogs. They're just like squished between the fibers. So looking at this, it's not going to heal very well, right? If you hurt a tendon or ligament, there's no blood supply. It's almost like non-living. It's just collagen fibers, which are protein. It's not a real alive thing. So super strong, dense, regular. Here's another picture of one. All this pink is collagen, and the cells are just squished in between. We have barely any room at all. So that's what I'm looking at. A couple Tendons right there. That's what they look like in a microscope. They're all just collagen fibers with the cells, a few cells. And again, you injure this, and it's not going to heal very well. Dense irregular, if you're looking at skin, up here is going to be your stratified squamous. All this business here is dense irregular. And it has collagen fibers going every which direction. Because your skin, you never know which way you need it to be strong. Tendons, you know. Tendons, all this, it's going to be just this the direction of the muscle pull. But skin, you can go any direction. So the fibers are going every which way. So dense, but it's irregular. And it's dense, it's strong, because that's where we get our leather from. Our leather is from the dermis of skin of cows and goats and things like that. So your belt, your shoes are made from dense, irregular tissue that was under the skin of some animal. Cool. All right. And we'll continue on. We're doing good. We're going to finish here with time to spare. Let's talk about cartilage. Cartilage is that rubbery stuff when you're eating a chicken wing or something like that. You know, it's that rubbery ends of the bones, right? If you kind of picture cartilage. And fresh cartilage is white and slippery if you ever open up a joint kind of thing. Maybe you see arthroscopic surgery. So cartilage is not as strong as bone. It has more cushioning. It's more flexible though. It's wetter. All right, so cartilage, what surrounds it, we call it the perichondrium. Anything chondro is cartilage. So chondrocytes are cartilage cells. Perichondrium goes around the perimeter of cartilage. And we'll talk about three types. And we're going to talk about this in bones and joints. You guys will come back to this. And so you'll hear me, you just met me today. But you'll see we'll talk about hyaline cartilage, which is your respiratory system. We'll talk about the ends of the ribs, cartilage of your ribs. So the most common kind of cartilage is hyaline cartilage. It's glassy. It's at the end of all your bones. I say it's glassy, meaning it has that kind of look to it, that shiny look to it. So hyaline cartilage. Yep. In the bones, nose, it's in the rings in your trachea. Feel those rings? It's hyaline cartilage. Elastic cartilage has a lot of elastic fibers, and so it's really elastic. So your ear, it flips back, doesn't it? So that's very elastic. Your nose cartilage is going to be hyaline, but this real elastic ear cartilage, so elastic cartilage. And then your epiglottis too. We'll talk about that. It's going to be what you swallow. It covers over your windpipe when you swallow. That's elastic cartilage. And then fibrocartilage has a lot of collagen, so it's wicked tough. Lots of collagen. So it's just a continuum. Hyaline is normal. Elastic has a lot of elastic fibers. Fibro has tons of collagen, so it's really strong. And you find that in the distance between your vertebrae and the cartilage that holds your pelvis together. So it's just wicked strong cartilage. I've never said wicked before recently. I come from Midwest most recently. You say y'all. So here's some hyaline cartilage. It's an absolutely beautiful tissue. It's just this light, beautiful glassy pink. And it has these little circles here. The little cartilage cells, the chondrocytes, are in these little caves of their own making. So they're in this little cave and they make that glassy material around themselves and they encase themselves in this little cave. And they're kind of it's kind of dumb because they're isolated from the blood supply. They just sit in this, but it's okay because they don't do much. Like your cartilage doesn't divide very much, it just kind of sits there. And these little chondrocytes are in these little caves called lacunae, we'll talk about. And then that's it. The cartilage just kind of sits there. It doesn't do much. It's not a very active tissue. Unlike bone, which has blood and nerves going through it. Yeah, and cartilage in general, I'll just give you guys this big picture. As you get older, you become more inflexible. So if you're doing CPR to a really old person, it's likely you're going to crack some ribs. So as you guys are very young, you're very flexible. And your chest is very flexible. Your joints are more flexible. As you age, cartilage turns into bone. It gets more crunchy. And it's just the way it is. Here's a beautiful view from hyaline cartilage. You guys agreeing with me? Is that beautiful? Mhm. And your whole skeleton, actually, you guys, before you had bone, all your skeleton was made out of hyaline cartilage. So that's like your fetal skeleton. And as you grow, it turns into bone. Cool. And some of you, if you're still growing taller, your bones haven't fused, you'll have a line of hyaline cartilage in your long bones. So you can still, your femur, you can still grow taller. And then when you're done growing, it fuses, and then you can't grow taller. We'll talk a lot about that. Oh my God, this is so cool. Look at that. See that AC means articular cartilage? It's hyaline cartilage, but it's between bones. Bones articulate and they come together. So look at that beautiful articular cartilage. It's hyaline. It's all that pink, glassy stuff is going to be the matrix. It's going to be what they made. It's mostly water and these chemicals that are rubbery. And then the cells are these little purple dots. And they're sitting in their lacunae, their little cave, and they're just sitting there. But they protect your joints until you get arthritis, like this. Arthritis, there's two kinds of arthritis, and the most common is osteoarthritis. It's where that cartilage breaks down, just through wear and tear. Some people more than others, but that's the normal arthritis. Rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune disease. It's a little different. It also breaks down the cartilage. This looks painful. It's the end of a humerus. It's supposed to be nice and covered all the way around, but you can see this one has been rubbed off. Elastic cartilage, we stain it in lab to show the elastic fibers are purple. And so, again, it's very elasticy. The two examples are the ear and then in your epiglottis. We'll see. That's the slide we'll look at in lab, the epiglottis. So lots of elastic fibers. Yeah, so here's that epiglottis. It's got a fold over your windpipe when you swallow, and it better snap back up, or else you're going to choke, right? So it's always snapping back up, so that's why it's so elastic. And so all these dark purple are elastic fibers. Oh, just to show you that cartilage doesn't heal very well. Yeah, that was back in the 80s, right? Still have a hole right there. Cartilage doesn't heal that well because, unlike bone, because it's not vascular, there's no blood vessels. That's just a lot of pieces. That's cool. All right, and then fibrocartilage. I'll show you, it looks really different because it has tons of collagen fibers, and it's just so strong. And it is a continuum. But the menisci in your knees, right? Lateral-medial meniscus, really tough. The pubic symphysis is the cartilage between your two pelvic bones in the front. And then the intervertebral discs. Yeah, it's weird. Look at that. I know it's green. Don't let that fool you. It's just, these are the chondrocytes. They kind of look like them, but most of it is just collagen fibers. Wicked tough. And so here's these intervertebral discs, and I'll show you a picture of my back next. And out here, this is all fibrocartilage. So you guys mentioned you jump and you land on it. All that pressure on those discs, it's got to be super tough. It also has that little center in the middle. We'll talk about when we do the bones. This little center is more jelly-like and more fluid, and it helps with shock absorption. This is my back. I'll show you. You can see here's a normal disc, normal disc, normal disc. Uh-oh. It doesn't have that clear center, does it? And what the hell is this little finger going into my spinal cord? That's not good. So, and this one, the jelly just leaked out, and this little thing is compressing my nerves. And so I have like my sciatic nerve, I have pain on one leg. So they went in and they cut that away. They went in again. Hopefully that's it. I feel okay. Yeah, so that's showing you some intervertebral discs. All right, we're left with bone and blood. A couple things. Bone. So we're going to save most of this for the bone section that we'll do in a couple weeks. But bone tissue is vascular, highly vascular. Your bones heal really well. I know some of you thinking, break a bone, I'm out for a long time, but comparatively, compared to a ligament or cartilage, it heals pretty well. And the bone, these little dark things are the osteocytes. The cells are in those little lacunae, they're called little caves. And those little tiny, see those little tiny squiggly lines? They're little canals. And so the blood goes through the central canal in the middle. And the blood goes through these little canals to this guy. This guy shares it with its buddy, its buddy, its buddy, its buddy, its buddy. So these little caniculi are where the bone cells touch each other and they share materials. It's like a fire line where you keep passing the bucket of water to the next person. And so these outer bone cells in this outer part, they depend on their friends in the inside to bring them nutrients and get rid of waste. Yep. And bone is in your bones. Do I need to define that? But no. And again, we'll get to the details of this, but bone looks like this. It has this cool concentric circles, right? Yeah. But here's one bone cell, and the matrix is going to be a crystal. It also has collagen in it too. The fibers are there. You gotta have both, because not enough collagen, your bones are too brittle. Not enough calcium phosphate, your bones are too flexible. Like that. All right, blood. Oh my God, blood is a tissue. Yes, blood is a tissue. It's a connective tissue. And it meets all the criteria. It has the cells, red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets. The matrix is fluid. It's plasma. This straw-colored fluid. You can sell and make money. And then, where are the fibers? That's not a question. Where are the fibers? Oh, it doesn't say. Oh, no. The fibers are hidden normally. But there are chemicals in there, and if you start clotting, your blood starts clotting, called fibrinogen, makes fibrin. These fibers, like this sticky mesh, comes out to block the leak. So there are fibers, but they're in chemical form, and they only wake up when the platelets say, dude, we need to block up something. So, yeah, so that's blood, connective tissue. You got about 5 liters in your body. It does all kinds of good stuff. We'll talk a lot about it. Take it in the lab and look at it. All right, a couple things to hit too. Talking about mucous membranes. I don't know any of you yet, but membranes, when you hear serous membrane, it means it secretes a watery fluid, like a lubricating fluid. So if you were to cut open your abdomen and look in there, you would see your intestines and your stomach and your spleen, and they'd be covered with this wet saran wrap. And those are serous membranes that are making a little bit of lubricating fluid, so that everything slides by each other. Oh, and your heart. Your heart is beating in your pericardial sac. Those are serous membranes that make this lubricating fluid, so everything moves nicely, and coating your lungs. So serous membrane, serous is making this water lubricating fluid. Mucous membrane makes mucus. These are going to be linings of your urethra and reproductive tract and digestive and down the respiratory. These secrete mucus. Mostly those goblet cells, but they make mucus, which is a sticky mucus. Cutaneous membranes are the name for skin. Cutaneous is skin. And then, for those of you that really like joints, we'll talk about the knee joint and the shoulder and like that. Synovial membranes secrete fluid inside of synovial joints. These are the big important joints like your knee. They make a little bit of fluid, unless they're overproductive. All right. And muscle. And then I'm saving so much of the muscle because we're going to delve into muscle, as you can imagine, quite a bit. But you all know this from, who knows, high school, grade school. Skeletal muscle or striated muscle is going to be the muscle like your biceps, your guns, your pecs. Smooth muscle is you don't control, and it's around your gut tube, it's around your respiratory tract, your blood vessels, yeah. And then cardiac muscle is only in your heart. It's got the beats on its own, right? Cool. I'll show you some pictures. You gotta be able to identify these for the lab practical. But this is skeletal muscle or striated muscle. These little striations, we'll talk a lot about that. Beautiful. Big fibers, super strong. Talk about fast twitch and slow twitch. Here's cardiac muscle. I'm just gonna help you guys so you do well in the test. It's smaller fibers, they're branched, and they have these little lines. These little lines are the intercalated discs. That's your two cardiac muscles talk to each other. And then here's smooth muscle. It's kind of an ugly picture, but this is going to line your uterus and your blood vessels, and you don't control that either. All right. And then nervous tissue, will spend a whole section on this, all right? But what I want you guys to know now is that, of course, the star of the show are the neurons. Neurons are these big freaking cells. They're awesome. It's what makes you think, and they make electricity. Yeah, cool. So the neurons are big, very active cells. And then neuroglial cells, glia means glue. These are the glue neuroglial cells that hold the nerves together. Your brain is like a chocolate chip cookie. And the neurons are the chocolate chips. All the cookie is the neuroglial cells. There's like 10 times more of those. So the neuroglial cells are the helper cells. Yeah. This is a beautiful section through a nerve. Oh. I finished early. See, guys? I told you. Well, it's good to see real people. I'll see you closer in lab, but we're done. And you watch my chemistry lecture. You guys study hard and email me or have office hours, and I'm happy to talk.